Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. So very glad you are joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And you know, there's always a time in all of our lives when we remember the people that have made a difference to and for us as we grew up and went to school. Really excited to welcome back to the program Bubba Orgeron, Assistant Superintendent and newly appointed Superintendent of Terrebonne Parish Schools. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Man, so excited to have you here and so exciting about this new change, Philip Martin, doing and being what he's been for so many years, and now you as his predecessor. Let's talk a little bit about that process and how exciting that is.
Yeah. So, to say the least, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
And I want to serve. It's nothing more than that. I've been asked from time to time, has it sunk in yet? Quite honestly, it hasn't sunk in.
Okay.
I've been that engaged with the transition, to really kind of sit back and, think about this new role that I'm in. So, but
Right.
I'm excited. I can't say that enough. Excited. I'm meeting with schools right now, so I'm really kind of getting out there, and I just want to really find out where they're at.
Sure.
I know for the most part, but I'm giving them an opportunity to kind of tell me kind of what are some issues or concerns they have. And then I'm asking them also for remedies. If you have a concern or issue about our district, how can we fix it? Tell me what you think is the answer to your issue. And what I'm hearing a lot of, and some of it is still COVID related,
Okay.
Some of it is attendance related. Student attendance is a big issue. And then we had the storm. So we've kind of been lenient on attendance because of storm related things. So we're going to get back to kind of being more, I guess, consistent with enforcing kind of attendance. So that's got to come, and teachers need that. They need kids there,
Sure.
know. So that's one thing I'm hearing.
Right.
When I'm going to schools. So we're going to work on getting that back to the way it was, where we have truancy and those kind of things. So hope students accountable for coming to school.
Right. And great leadership goes and not only asks the question, but great leadership is asking the question and asking for some answers too.
Yeah, because it's easy just to kind of throw out issues.
Right.
Or
It's easy to
concerns,
kind of complain, right?
And like you said, I'm going to listen and really make some decisions based on what they're kind of communicating to me. So it's been a fun tour. It's almost like a tour. I mean, we've got
Right.
over 30 schools, and
Sure.
to set that up for hour long meetings, it's been fun, but it's taking some time to kind of get them in.
Sure.
But I think they need to kind of see and hear from me.
Right.
So it's been good
Yeah.
talking to the teachers and faculties.
Yeah, I preach all the time about the importance of the gift of presence. And that's one of those things, just being present. Whether they're a laundry list or just a few things,
Yes.
then being able to sit face to face and kind of express that's
Yes.
really important.
Yeah, and Keith, there's also, as a superintendent, just connecting to kids, just being in a classroom, you can learn so much. You don't have to go in like for a formal evaluation, but just getting hip to hip, knee to knee with kids, and asking them questions. Just one of the questions I ask is, what are you learning today? And that speaks volumes. You really kind of get to know where they're at, if they're really, engaged in where they're at. And most of the time, just about always, it amazes me, what they can communicate to you.
As we're talking about transition, let's talk a little bit about some of the recovery that's going on. And I appreciate you bringing some pictures about this. And I think we got some shots of South Terrebonne and Ellender here. Let's go to that, Jen, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so these are pictures of the temporary campuses. You can see South Terrebonne's obviously when you're passing, along the highway. Ellender's, they're tucked in behind the building. That's where it's going up at Ellender.
Right.
That's where we had a lot of property. So I wanted to show these pictures just to show you how spacious these classrooms are. They're all custom-made buildings.
Oh, wow.
So, they're building them to our specifications.
That's huge.
We have, you can see the air conditioning here. They're all going to have their own units.
Okay.
So they'll be, nice and cool. They're all going to have these boardwalks. So each building's going to be connected with a boardwalk with a covered top. So they'll be able to transition from building to building and stay out of the elements for the most part. And it's really neat to see them assembling them. They're coming like in little layers, and they're assembling the layers, kind of like a double wide, but
Okay.
it's almost like a quadruple wide that they're stacking together in segments. Um, so that's just some of the footage from both Ellender and South Terrebonne modulars. Um, a lot of people asking, well, how long? How long will we be in these modulars? And that's still somewhat of an unknown because we're dependent upon FEMA to give us a determination as to whether the results that our architects kind of submitted. We're going to submit the results from architects to give us a cost analysis
Right.
of what it's going to take to repair both South Terrebonne and Ellender. So we're scrutinizing this. Our FEMA team is scrutinizing these architectural, results, and they're going to submit this to FEMA. Once FEMA gets it, it's probably about a 6-month evaluation from them to give us kind of whether it's a rebuild or repair. So
Right.
we're still kind of in the unknown. You
Right.
see? So that's why it may look like a delay, but that's why the delay.
Right.
So we're at that point. We're getting ready to submit to FEMA. It took the architect at Ellender like a couple of months just to give us a cost analysis,
Right.
because Ellender was that
damage.
bad,
Sure.
So it's like thousands of lines and over 200 something pages of
Right.
line
Of
item
those things.
Costs.
Right. And then they've got to review those and see. But listen, the
Yes.
pictures really paint a great idea of what's
Uh-huh.
happening for that in the recovery. We're talking a little bit about Ellender and South Terrebonne, and I love those walkways that they have in between those modulars,
Right,
and,
right.
and how much room they have in them. I remember
Yes.
a time when some of our temporary buildings were really tiny.
Yes, right.
You know?
And, it's really neat about them as well. We have a cafeteria building. We have like a band room, a library, science labs. Like we have gas and water run. So when we said
wow.
custom made, it's a fully operational school.
Right.
So it's going to be the best situation. It's going to be probably better than the platooning, right?
Right. Sure.
Which we had our struggles, but it's what we needed to do.
And you need to know it's working. I got a firsthand report yesterday of a young man who is in the platooning of the schools with Terrebonne, and I asked him how it was going. He said, "I feel like I'm learning just as much. I'm in school for the time that we need to share." And it lets me do some work in the afternoons.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
So firsthand report
Right,
that's
right.
working well. So
Yeah.
and speaking of working well, we're kind of in that recovery phase everywhere,
Right.
and some of the other schools,
yeah.
right?
So we still have actually 4 schools, counting Ellender and South Terrebonne, that we don't know long term what's going to happen.
Okay.
So the other 2 schools are Upper Little Caillou and Grand Caillou Elementary.
Right.
So the same process has kind of happened for those schools. Architects gave their assessment of the damages, and when I say gave, submitted that.
Sure.
And from there, we go again to FEMA. So we're waiting for determination of both of those facilities, and that's going to determine, once we find that answer out, kind of what happens with Grand Caillou Elementary and Upper Little Caillou. So we're anxiously awaiting so that we can start really solidifying where those students and faculties are going to be. So we have options, and we're going to communicate those options pretty soon.
Right.
But we're still kind of waiting to kind of see what's long term.
Because there's a lot of people who are making those decisions, if you will,
Yes.
based on the information that y'all have.
Right.
And it's interesting. We're kind of going back. I don't mean we're going backwards. We're moving forward. But you go back to phase 1 of our assessment of what the architects think
Right.
with regards to what we can do in maybe phase 2.
And that phase 1 assessment, then when I'm speaking to different groups, I ask the question, like, what do you think the cost assessment was of the entire district when we first came back from the storm? When the architects went and kind of evaluated, the number we got was $200 million of damage. So that's significant, right? And you obviously don't have that in the bank.
Right.
We weren't insured for that much.
Right.
Obviously, the cost would have been astronomical to have that kind of insurance. So
Right.
We're dependent upon FEMA.
Right.
So we've got to kind of go through the process and be very methodical.
Right.
Because if you're not, you could obviously not get rewarded. So you've
Right.
got to really cross your T's, dot your I's. So it's time consuming, but necessary to kind of go through all that.
And it's so important because it leads to where we are now, which is some face-to-face and present graduations.
That's right. Yes.
How
Amen to
exciting
that, right?
for the first time in 2 years.
Yes. Right. right, right.
All it's kind of it reminds me of all of our festivals, like a Relay for Life and all the things that have been going on
Yeah,
at Fireman's Fair.
yeah. Those good times, right? For
Yeah,
people to just get back to normal and be around people. Yeah, it's exciting to kind of be part of that. Yes, and have graduations be, an official culmination
right, right.
of 3 difficult years for a lot of these kids.
Yeah,
A couple of COVID years, and then the storm, and we've
right,
all kind of been through that. So
right.
in schooling, they've had some rough years.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap that up is just a milestone for this whole district.
Right. Have you seen or heard some of that excitement as you've been making your rounds? Have you kind of gotten some of that senior excitement?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Oh, very
Yes.
cool.
But they're ready. I think a lot of people are tired. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that you have some of that too going on.
Right.
People, we made up all of our days.
That's the other
so we
incredible
lost
thing.
some holidays.
Right.
And those holidays are so needed by teachers to just kind of recharge and kind of get ready for the next
Refresh.
stretch. Just to
Right.
kind of push through and so that's one of the things. And we had time off during the storm, but we were dealing with homes and all the stuff that people dealt with,
Right, right.
So it wasn't like we were off,
Right.
or
Yeah. Not enjoying
recharging
any
the
of that time.
batteries.
Right.
It
was draining the
so
battery.
people are feeling it, and kids too. So
Yeah.
getting to this point is just good to see. Just quick aside. Speaking of just good times, I went to see South Terrebonne and South Lafourche baseball, and it was just great to see. And we had a couple of really good articles in the paper, right?
Right.
Just great to see
Some
good
great
baseball and people from two, devastated communities coming together to really kind of just enjoy life and kids on the field. And matter of fact, great games. South
Right.
Terrebonne prevailed,
Right.
and they're playing today.
Wow.
In Sulphur.
In Sulphur, that's right.
In the semifinals, they're
Yeah.
playing Lakeshore. So
Yeah.
we're hoping for the best for those guys and coaches.
And
yeah.
wish them well.
And schools and community for that
Right.
matter.
And look, athletics can do some of those things. Athletics can be so very valuable to any young person.
Right.
But it's really valuable to see that those two.
Yeah. See, it was a special thing to
areas.
see
Yeah.
the people coming
Right.
together from both communities.
And speaking of special, we feel very honored that you've been able to get this position because we feel like that's going to be something really special. Philip Martin has done a wonderful job,
Yes.
and now the
Yes.
changing of the guard, we feel like this is exciting as we move on. And so as we close, I just want to say thank you
Sure thing.
for making your gift of presence there with the school system, for supporting everybody and the plan moving forward. And so
Okay, thank
we
you.
look forward
Thanks
to
for
it.
having me. All right. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Thank
All right.
you,
We'll
Keith.
be talking to you a whole lot more.
All right.
I
Sounds
like
good.
it. And speaking of that, we're going to see you a whole lot more as you return to watch a little bit more Bayou Time here on HTV.